Hello everyone, my name is Sylvans, and today we'll be going over my last article on Harpies, siding with Harpies. So this is the first of a couple of different article types I'm going to have. In the past I've done articles that are all about how to side against certain strategies. Now I really want to focus on how do you side with a certain strategy? How do you take the Harpy deck and what do you side for that deck? I built a side deck for this, I built a main deck, but of course going with these articles, and I want to make this really, really clear, the main deck is not the focus. To some extent, it is clearly because you need to take things out of the main deck, and there are things maybe in the main deck that would normally be sided, and I'm choosing to main them. And I usually try to explain that when that happens, but the idea here is you don't really want to get caught up in the main deck, and there's so many different ways to build these decks, and some of them, it's totally personal preference. There's a lot of choices in here that I did purely out of personal preference, and some of them I actually went against my personal preference and I went with convention just so people wouldn't ask me about it. Uh, Anyways, yeah, like it's really, really not the focus, but yeah, if people do want to talk about the main deck, they certainly can. How to build Harpies, right? So I had someone ask me about, the very first comment was Summoner Monk. Like, I like Summoner Monk at 1. I hated playing 2, and I just really never ran the trap or the spell lineup to support that many. And actually, I remember some guy, there's a deck list right now, someone topped a regional with like 9 spells, and he ran a single Summoner Monk in there. And I have no idea how he made that Summoner Monk live all the time. But yeah, like, I love Divine Wrath in the main deck. It's not something you see too many people doing. There definitely are people doing it, but I absolutely loved it, so that's why I put that in there. I absolutely loved Magical Hats at times. It was a little wonky, but anyways, yeah, I included a bunch of different side deck cards in here. One of the cards I didn't put in was Mistake. I think in the future, if I were to build this deck, I would be running Trap Stuns and Mistakes because I think it's really good, a really good 2-card combination. And going forward, I might run Mistake as well. I really like Non-Aggression Area. I thought that was a great card, and every time I played it, you would basically win off of it. If you go, flip the Non-Aggression Area, discard the sign, you would win the next turn, basically every time, because they wouldn't be able to stop you. Depending on the deck you're going up against, clearly, if they set 4 in response to that, you might not be able to get past them. But generally speaking, I was getting past people every time I played that. Had some comments about Prohibition, which actually I didn't even think about. If you use Prohibition and you call Harpy Lady, you're going to knock out a lot of their effects, their ability to play the Harpy Lady cards, and also the ability to use Harpy Lady effects, because all of your Harpies, they become Harpy Ladies, so you can't do anything with them, and I don't think you can even get them back from the graveyard with, say, Hysteric Party, because they're treated as Harpy Ladies. So that's actually really cool, and I didn't think about that. And Sideblocker, kind of the same thing. So I'm really glad someone suggested that because I think it's really cool. Although the deck definitely has ways to get around it, it does seem like a really strong side deck card, so that's pretty cool. And then earlier there was an issue with the side deck cards, and I doubled up on DD Crow and a Maxi. But otherwise, yeah, people talking about Hunting Ground. Calling Hunting Ground with Prohibition, that's another option. I could see that working. The only issue I have with that is you do need another card because they're probably going to Chidori you if you don't do that correctly. And yeah, Magical Hats, it is hit or miss. It's either really, 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 really good, or it just sucks. And actually, I never really had an instance where they blew it up before. Like, the entire time I played it, I never had an instance where they destroyed it before I set a card. It was always or before, like, they would go into their battle phase. It was always like I would have it, but then not have a monster. And it was just so incredibly inconsistent when that happened. It would happen so many times. And I was really frustrated. But I don't think it's a problem with Hunting Ground. I think it was an issue, or not with Hunting Ground, but with Magical Hats. I think it was an issue with my monster lineup that was kind of wonky. But yeah, I think Magical Hats is really cool. I think Icarus, I probably could have dropped to 1. I love Icarus Attack, but this deck just doesn't run that many monsters. But yeah, going forward, I think Harpies are going to be really, really good. They run so much hate. And it was funny because my opponents would side, when I went to the regional, they would side stuff like Dimensional Fissure and Macrocosmos against me. I would be siding those same cards against them sometimes. There was a hero player I played against, and I didn't want him to be able to use his Miracle Fusion, so I sided in Macro against him, so all his stuff would be banished. And it actually won me a game because he couldn't flip his Miracle Fusion. Even though after the match he showed me, he's like, yeah, I sided this against you, but you flipped it first. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, it really doesn't hurt Harpies because I'll sign out my Hysteric Parties. On Hysteric Party, the one thing I'll say about that is I don't like winning with it. Like, people run 3. I really don't like winning with it. I think it's a dumb card. I think it doesn't even, I don't even get the same feeling when I play Rekindling. I just feel like it's such a sacky card. And I would rather play Harpies as a skillful rank 4 toolbox than let me just flip this card and win the game. And I hate seeing tournament reports where people are like, yep, I flipped Hysteric Sun and I won. Or, every time I flip that card and I would like summon a bunch of guys, my opponents would just be rolling my eyes and I'd be like, I'm so sorry, but it's like, you have to play this card. So I would side it out in a lot of game 2s as I sided in a bunch of other things. And I always felt that made the duel much more intense. It was like the last format when you'd side in return, and it was just, or you'd side out return because you didn't want to be a jerk. It always felt the same way. Like, if you flip return, it's just like flipping Hysteric Party, even though Party's a lot more susceptible to things. But it is predictable, and that's actually a big reason why I took it out. Anyways, that's it, and I'm sure the duels in the background have stopped. I was playing Sylvans, having some fun with that. And by having fun, I mean losing a lot. I lose a lot with that deck. So a lot of the matches you're probably seeing, you're like, why are you playing against a Gravekeeper deck, or like this Gravekeeper deck that's running like Breaker and things in it? Like, because that's the only thing I can win against right now. I'm working on the deck. I'm playing around with it. It's really bad right now. All the new support is going to be so good. But that's all I have for this week. So let me know in the comments what you think of this article, and if you want to see more in the future, and which decks you want to see in the future. This week is going to be on Inzectors, so that should be pretty fun. Anyways, thank you for listening, and until next time then.